Your ancestors were not the hunters, they were the meat. Picture a stretch of open woodland in South Africa 3 million years ago. The grass stands shoulder high and the color of old bone. You are small, maybe 4 feet tall. You have no claws. No fangs worth the name. You cannot climb as fast as a leopard. You cannot outrun anything that wants to eat you. And when the sun drops, you go half blind. To almost every big cat on that ground, you are not a rival. You are a meal that happens to walk on 2 legs. For roughly the first 3 million years of the human story, that was the truth your body lived inside, not the top of the food chain somewhere in the soft middle of it. So how are you here? Hold that question. The answer is stranger than strength, and a single child's skull pulled from a limestone quarry tells the first half of it. In 1924, an anatomist named Raymond Dark was handed a fossil from a place called Taung, a child's face and brain case, an early human relative we now call Australopithecus, which simply means southern ape. The Taung child had walked upright. Its brain was barely larger than a chimpanzee's. For decades, people argued about how it died. Then they looked closely at the eye sockets. Puncture marks, curved gouges scored into the bone around the eyes. The paleoanthropologist Lee Berger compared that damage to what large birds of prey do to monkeys today. A crowned eagle kills by punching its talons through the skull and into the eyes. The marks matched. This ancestor of yours, this small, upright child, had been taken by an eagle from the sky. It never looked up in time. That is who you come from, not the thing in the dark. The thing the dark was hunting. And it gets worse before it gets better. 40 miles north sits a cave called Swartkrans. Blank, its floor is packed with the shattered bones of early humans. Thousands of fragments. And for years, the easy story was that these were our ancestors' homes, that they hauled their food inside and ate near the mouth of the cave. 2 South African scientists, named sabre-toothed, spent years with those bones, and he found something that flipped the story end over end. One early human skull, labeled SCAF 54, had 2 clean holes punched into the back of it. 2 holes, a set distance apart. Brain lifted the lower jaw of a leopard and lined up its 2 stabbing canine teeth with the holes. They slid in, a perfect fit. The cave was never a home. It was a larder. Leopards haul their kills up into trees to keep them from hyenas, and a tree leaning over that cave mouth would have rained the scraps your relatives crapped straight down into the black below. Brain titled his book The Hunters, or The Hunted. For most of our past, the answer was the hunted. And the cats of that world were not the cats, you know. There was Dinofelis, a heavy false saber-tooth about the size of a jaguar, whose bones keep turning up in the same caves as ours. Some of the researchers who studied those caves came to suspect it had a taste for upright apes, that it was, in effect, our specialist. Around it ran saber-toothed cats with canines like curved daggers, and hyenas with jaws that split thigh bones for the marrow. You were born into a world that had spent millions of years getting very, very good at eating things like you. So look at the problem with clear eyes. You are slow, soft, and night-blind. On a continent that invented the saber-toothed cat, your kind should have ended as a thin gray layer of chewed bone at the bottom of 100 caves. Instead, you are here reading this, the descendant of the ones that didn't. What turns soft prey into something a predator decides to avoid? People reach for the big brain, and the brain matters. But a brain does not stop 400 pounds of cat that has already closed the gap. Something had to buy the time for that brain to pay off. 3 things did, not one of them was a claw. The first was the night taken back deep inside Wonderwerk Cave, also in South Africa. A team led by the geologist Francesco Berna found burned bone and plant ash, sealed in layers 1 million years old, not a wildfire that blew in through the entrance. Fire used on purpose, far back inside the cave, 1 million years ago, by Homo erectus, an upright ancestor built much like you. Think about what a fire does once the sun is gone. The light shoves the edge of the world back a few yards. The smell of smoke announces to every animal born afraid of it that this ground belongs to a creature that holds the one thing they all flee. A lion owns the dark. A lion will not walk into flame. For the first time in the history of life, a corner of the night belonged to you. That is, the moment the eyes in the grass begin to hesitate. The second thing was distance. Every other animal out there fought at the length of its own body. Tooth, claw, horn, all of it up close to be killed, you had to be reached. To kill back, you had to close that same gap and gamble everything on it. Then a shoulder changed. In 2013, a researcher named Neil Roche showed that the human shoulder works like a slingshot around 2 million years ago in Homo erectus again. The joint loosened and the arm learned to store energy like a drawn bow and snap it loose in a whip. No other ape can do this. A chimpanzee throws at about 20 miles an hour. Trained human throws many times harder. Now you could hurt a thing before it ever reached you. Then you put a point on it. In a coal mine near Schöningen, in Germany, the archaeologist Hartmut Thieme dug out wooden spears, weighted and balanced for throwing around 300,000 years old. Somebody stood at a careful distance, drew back, and forced the deadliest hunters alive to stop and weigh whether you were worth the wound. The third thing is the strangest, because it turned the whole table over. Your ancestors stopped only fleeing. They started running things down in 2004. Two scientists, Dennis Bramble and Daniel Lieberman, laid out the case in the journal Nature that your body is built, against all expectation for distance, long elastic tendons in the legs, a thick spring of tendon at the heel, millions of sweat glands where other animals carry fur, so you shed heat while you keep moving. Almost nothing else on the savannah can do that. A gazelle beats you over 100 yards without trying. But chase it for 2 hours under a noon sun, and it overheats, staggers, and folds while you are still walking steadily toward it. So the prey learn to hunt by outlasting, not with speed, with a refusal to stop. In the Kalahari, San hunters still do it, picking one antelope and trailing it at a jog through the worst heat of the day until the animal simply cannot rise again. The soft thing an eagle once plucked off the ground had become the one creature on earth a healthy antelope could not shake. But here is the part almost everyone walks straight past. It is the part that matters most. None of it worked alone. One human, with a spear and good lungs, is still a soft thing after dark. A leopard takes that human 9 times out of 10. The fire had to be fed all night, which means somebody stayed awake while the others slept, which means watches, in shifts, in the dark. For 1,000 generations, running an antelope to collapse took several people reading tracks and calling the turns. The throw only saved you if the others were throwing too. So the cat faced not one frightened target but a wall of them, loud and moving as one. Your ancestors did not outmuscle the deadliest predator on Earth. They outcooperated them. The body stayed weak. The group became the weapon. A lion was stronger than any single one of them, and no match at all for 40 of them who had agreed before the dark ever came to stand instead of scatter. You still carry the shape of that bargain. The cold jolt, when something shifts at the edge of your sight in a dark room, faster than thought, is older than your species, carved by 1,000,000 real nights of real eyes in real grass. The pull you feel toward a fire, toward a ring of faces, toward not being the one left out past the light, is the same instinct that kept the watch burning while the camp slept. You were never built to face the dark by yourself. You were built to face it together and never to sleep. All at once, your ancestors were the meat. They survived the world's deadliest predator not by growing into stronger, sharper, faster animals, but by becoming shoulder to shoulder in the firelight. The one kind of prey the predator finally learned to leave alone.
If the world you came from feels a little closer now, that's exactly the point. Subscribe, and every week we'll uncover another piece of who you used to be.